All right, guys, so now we're going to talk about our unloaded scapular or prep work that we kind of do with our clients. Let's go over the 6 ranges of motion again. Let's go ahead and face the wall for me. So we got retraction, pulling together, protraction, pulling away. Let's go ahead and go up. You got upwards rotation, going up, downward rotation, coming down. Go ahead and put the arms down by the sides. And then we have elevation, shoulder blades together, and then depression, shoulder blades together, down, right? So there's 6 scapular movements. The thing that we see most with this movements is when somebody doesn't do them right, they start bending their elbows to compensate for that lack of movement in the scapula, right? So they don't understand what we're asking of them. So a lot of times what we try to do to let's say fix that or make them be more body aware of that is we might try to do double versus single. So instead of doing, go ahead and face that way again. Instead of doing 2 arms up and showing me how to do an upper rotation, I might ask them, hey, show me how to do it 1 arm. So go ahead and reach, keep that elbow straight. I might be holding onto their elbow so they don't move it and remind them, and then go ahead and pull down again, up again, pull down again, and then I'll test the other side, right? So go ahead and up, reach, make sure I'm touching their elbow, moving down, up again, down again. And it could be the same thing for retraction, protraction, anything you think about. If they're keeping that elbow straight, that's a good sign. If they're bending it, that's not a good sign. But then again, if you're doing it single arm compared to double arm, it could just be a body awareness. They don't have coordination to control both arms together. They might not be aware that they're doing it incorrectly. And then single arm compared to double arm is a really good way to prep them for it. Another one that we use is we might do a couple of different stretches to see if it's a mobility problem. So let's say that they can't go up or down or back and forth without bending their elbows. One of the ones we might use is a pat down stretch. So a pat down stretch, we'll have both hands on the wall, we'll have actively pushing with your elbows straight on the wall, and we'll have her try to push her chest into the ground and try to see if she can feel what would you say, extension here? Mm-hmm. Extension in her upper back, like a stretch, extension, and they will feel that right away. Some people can't even do that. Some people will still have bent elbows trying to do this. So that might mean that it's coming from their biceps, right? Their biceps are really tight, so we might have to work on loosening those biceps up. The other one we can do is we can do a single arm version of this. So let's say you have one trap that's really tight and it's holding them up, but they don't know that. So we're gonna try to find out, okay, can you get lower? Do you feel that? And then we'll switch to the other arm. Tell me the difference. Oh yeah, they might say that this side is a lot tighter. So then what we have to do is go back to a single arm variation of this for prep work, and then let's go ahead and come off. And then what we would do back from there is basically go back and reassess and see, can they do better double arm or single arm? Can they keep their elbows straight or not? Another one variation we can do in a wall pat down would be, let's say that they're still bending their elbows a lot going down, right? So what we could try to do is go into their elbows variation. So we take one joint away, and that would be the forearm. So now instead of keeping the hands on the wall, we're going to keep the elbows on the wall, and we're going to try to actively press into the ground. And that might be a bigger stretch that they've ever felt on their traps, lats, upper back, thoracic area. That could mean that basically their biceps still taking over. So there's a lot of different ways we could go about this, right? For doing prep work to open up the joints for that session. So this is necessarily not gonna open you up for this one exercise, might not open you up for the rest of your life, but it's gonna open you up for the next 20 to 30 minutes, enough for us to get a good range of motion in the exercises. And over the course of months, maybe years, maybe depending on the person, how old they are and everything, and how tight they are, it's gonna open you up in general to be able to bring that mobility back with that strength, right?
Yeah, especially if we can get them to do it when they're not here, at home. So stretches that don't involve tools are really great.
Yeah, for sure. So we always try to figure out what kind of prep we need to do, whether it be, what are they doing wrong, first of all, and then what can we use to fix that? Simple ways, like we said, it was single arm versus double arm. Another simple way would be stretch before you ask them to do that again and see if they're just really tight. Sometimes it's in their head. Sometimes they just need that opening to be able to do it, and that's more psychological. There's a lot of psychological stuff that goes into personal training. That's also something to note. Then after we do some prep work, we'll do into some strengthening work, unloaded. So we're not grabbing any tools or anything. One of the ones that we like to use is no monies, right? Mm-hmm. So go ahead and describe it.
So at no money, what you're going to do is have your palms up to the sky with your thumbs pointed out. You're going to relax your shoulders down and back. You're going to try to keep a decent connection with your elbow to your side of your body. And then without using your arms, you're going to try to pull your shoulder blades together, opening your hands. otherwise known as a no money. I have no money for you, right? So as I turn around, hopefully you can see my scapulas moving through my shirt. They're pulling in towards the middle line of my body and then relaxing back out.
One big thing you want to note is that some people, you can ask them to push their elbow into the rib cage. They just might not understand that over the course of time. They forget after like rep 3 or 5, especially in a first-time client. One of the things we always sort of find ways that they can themselves cue themselves on. So one thing that we might add is a little towel right here, and we'll tell them, hey, make sure you keep the towel there to keep that range of motion correctly, because it's easy for me to get back here if I have this much space, right? But if I have this much space, I have a lot less mobility. I might arch my back to get it if I can't do it. So then we'll start finding other compensation patterns.
No money is a really valuable exercise for both mobility and for strengthening. It's going to help mobilize my pecs and my anterior delts. It's also going to help strengthen the muscles in my scap area, working on my posture. It's always good to give people a reason behind why you're giving them an exercise. And anytime you talk about posture with something, people are usually motivated by that because no one wants to have bad posture.
Yeah, and it's also great prep work. Let's say I'm in a shoulder press next, and I know I have tight shoulders. If I do a wall pat down, if I do no monies, that's prepping me. That's getting my shoulders fired up for that overhead movement, complex movement, heavy movement, right?
Now knowing how many different ways the scap moves and how many things it does for us, making sure it's prepped for big movements like that is really important to make sure you get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, one thing that we always think about, like I said before already, is just making sure you do little steps to make that whole experience better overall as a whole. So now we're going to go on the ground. I'm going to move this camera a little bit, and we're going to show you some other movements that we use for noting strength. All right, so as you can see, Heather's prone, facing the ground. Prone means facing down. What we're going to do here is we're going to do A's, so prone A. So a prone A is, if I'm looking at her from the top, she's going to draw an A with her hands and her upper back. So from here, she's not lifting her hands, she's just lifting her shoulder. Eventually we're going to lift our hands, but we're just going to try to light up these muscles right here. One thing that I always ask clients is if they feel in their traps a lot. Somebody that comes to you that's really tight might feel in their trap a lot. That's not uncommon. What we want to try to do is try to shut down these muscles. This is one of the easier ones to understand because you're pulling straight back, not up. Why would be the other problem, but we're going to go over that later. Anything you want to add on this?
I really like to coach relaxed shoulders and then active shoulders to get them in the right place. So if you notice, when I'm fully relaxed, my shoulders are rounded forward, I'm kind of shrugging, and then before I lift my hands, I'm going to activate my shoulders down and back so I feel my scaps working. Then I'll actually perform the exercise, have them drive their thumbs at the sky, lift up as high as they can, feel that activation, and relax back down, but keeping the shoulders set.
So that's an A, that's a prep that we use for strength. Another prep that we use for strength might be a T. So go from A's to T's. So instead of having your hands down by your sides, you now have your hands right in line with your shoulders. And all I'm going to have her do is keeping her traps relaxed. She's going to lift her shoulders off the floor with her hands. There you go. So that she's lifting up and down without having to go up. Sorry, she's lifting horizontally up and down, or vertically up and down in this case, without having to go up with her shoulders and traps. Right? So she should, I always ask them, do you feel it back? I always point and ask, do you feel it back here or do you feel it up here? Sometimes they'll tell me, no, I only feel it in here. But it's good for you to start getting used to, if the client's okay with it, first always ask if they're okay with it. But hey, are you feeling up here or down here? Anything else you want to add?
No, that's good.
No? And then the other one we do a lot is W's. That's another letter. So if I'm looking at it from the top, just going to draw a W. So go ahead and draw a W. You're going to try to pull your shoulder blades back without shrugging up. Exactly. So she's trying to get her hands and her elbows as high off the floor as possible without shrugging up. I'm also touching here, making sure this is loose. I'm asking her, do you feel it here a lot? I'm asking her, do you feel it here a lot? The answer would be, I want to feel it back here a lot more than up here. Some people in this position sometimes might have some lower back pain. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll pull a pillow underneath their belly or their hips so that they're a little bit more slanted with a big arch on their back, especially if they're a little bit heavier. And then from here, we're going to do swimmers. So one more exercise we're going to go over on this, and we're going to do more in-person session, is swimmers would be all the way, hands off the ground. And then from here, you're going to go all the way around and all the way back. That's the beginning version of a swimmer right here. And what you're looking for is when they're reaching their hands overhead is for them not to bend their elbows and for them not to shrug. When you start seeing that bend in the elbow or that shrug, that's a compensation pattern. So what I might do here, let's say she's shrugging her shoulders, is I might have her keep going up and I might have her stop here. And that's as far as I want her to go. So that way she doesn't activate this compensation pattern. That way start getting her used to what a good movement should feel like without her compensation taking care of it, right? Once they understand that, then they're going to start understanding what it feels like to do it wrong. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think the two-step pattern works really well. Have them relax their shoulders through all 4 of those movements, then set their shoulders back, then lift their arms.
And then on the in-person session, we're going to go over a couple more movements that we believe are really good to strengthen unloaded shoulders before you go into some load.
And some stability stuff.
And stability.